Good day, Kavibal, and welcome to our continuing Professional Development Webinar Series Part 2. For the discussion today, the topic will be on co-teaching and collaborative accountability in virtual learning. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions on the comment box allotted during the session and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kavibal. And now, to proceed with our webinar this afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Dr. Chris T. Zita is a graduate of Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English, and Master of Arts in Education, major in Administration and Supervision with academic excellence. He has completed his diploma in English Language and Literature, revised at Allison Online Course, Galway, Ireland. He became the president of the Division Secondary English Coordinators, Division of Batangas Province, Philippines from December 15 to May 2019, where he led the English coordinators of the entire province, giving his extra time and introduced innovations for free for easy accomplishments of reports. He is a part-time college professor, guest lecturer, research speaker, and thesis advisor. He is the designated English Researcher Coordinator of the Center for High School Research Innovation for Social Transformation or CRISE and a member of different research organizations, local and international. He is also a manuscript reviewer, editor of Gazette, an outstanding teacher and outstanding researcher awardee of the year during the 2020 InstaBright National Awards for Educators, an active research enthusiast, collaborator, and research presenter in local and international conferences and had published research works in local and international journals. An ambassador of the Global Academy for Human Excellence, an International Nobel Ambassador for Education Empowerment of UNRS, President of Access for Human Rights International Philippines, and the appointed director of the UN ECOSOC SCS SDC UNESCO. He was an awardee of King Carl the 16th Gustav Medal of Philosophy in Education, major in Educational Management at the University of Perpetual Help System, Delta, Philippines. An awardee of 7 honorary doctorate degree from international organizations. He is a keynote speaker of different international virtual conferences in different universities as part of his dedication and willingness to uplift the quality of education and part of humanitarian work of giving his free service and following United Nations SDG 4 quality education. He is a part-time college professor and at present, he is a secondary school teacher 3 and officer in charge of the English department of Dr. Juan A. Pastor Memorial National High School, Talaibon, Ibaan, Batangas, Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Dr. Chris T. Zita. Excuse me, sir, may we ask you to turn on your microphone? Thank you.
So great day, everyone. I hope everyone are still high spirited in this overflowing task in this new normal in education due to this pandemic. So the present setup of our educational system is an answer to the need to transform the learning environment, and we have the lessons or the way the lessons are to be conveyed emerge as we face the 21st century, coupled with different catastrophes and health issues. The demand even intensifies because now the main objective becomes more than just improving the learning needs and capacity of students, but more of addressing the needs accordingly in the midst of crisis that mainly cause school disruptions, just like war, calamities, and the most relevant in the recent, of course, is COVID-19 pandemic. The education sector cannot just sleep or freeze because of paralysis amid shutdowns and closures. School may be disrupted, but learning must continue. Just as the statement of UNESCO in Education 2030, Ancient Declaration and Framework for Action, emphasizes to implement flexible classes and to ensure that learning still continues despite school closures. So the topic today is about co-teaching and collaborative accountability in virtual learning, wherein everyone knows what's going on with our society, or especially the education sector nowadays in this pandemic time. So let me start this conversation with this quotation. So collaboration operates through a process in which the successful intellectual achievements of one person
Excuse
arouse
me
intellectual
po, sir.
passions.
Can we ask you po to share your screen? Thank you po.
Okay, is it now visible?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, so again, so collaboration operates through a process in which the successful intellectual achievements of one person arouse the intellectual passions and enthusiasms of others. That is according to Alexander von Humboldt. Okay, continuing, of course, let us get to know first cooperative learning, or what is cooperative teaching, or what is co-teaching. So co-teaching stands for cooperative teaching. Of course, in the article of co-teaching in distance learning by Kelly Nelson Danley, and it is explained that co-teaching involves more than one teacher sharing the teaching role in a classroom. Another, co-teaching requires teachers to share the responsibilities in the planning, delivery of instruction, and the delivery of assessment and feedback. In this setting, teachers share equal accountability for instructing students. How is this done or applied? This is done or applied when a general education teacher pairs up with a special education teacher, or an enhancement teacher, which includes music teacher, a PE teacher, an art teacher, and many more. Or this can be an instructional coach, or as simple as when any two teachers teach together. So this is educators co-teach for various reasons. Next is co-teaching creates an opportunity for students to interact with more than one knowledgeable teacher. So in this manner, students with disabilities are allowed to access to the general education setting and curriculum in more inclusive way because they have access to their regular education teacher and content. At the same time, having access to differentiation provided by the special education teacher. In addition, lessons are developed by more than one teacher, so it's tend to be stronger, more creative, and well-defined or well-planned lesson plans because teachers share in the planning process and brainstorming ideas that will meet the needs and demands of the learners. Co-teaching, when properly executed, can start building relationships, foster collaboration, and meet the needs of a variety of students. As the saying goes, two heads are better than one. So two teachers are better than one. With many schools, not only in private schools, but also public schools, shifting toward distance learning. Teachers are learning to adapt to be able to cope up with needs of educational system. Co-teaching can be just as effective and enjoyable in the virtual classroom as the traditional one. So co-teaching is a model or framework that emphasizes collaboration and communication among members of a team to meet the needs of all students. But then again, one size fits all policy is not applicable or not true in all cases. Increased understanding of all students' needs, stronger instructional programs grounded in general education, content for the students with disabilities, and then increased acceptance of students with disabilities by peers, and increased burnout for professionals. These are just within the reach or the research literature in co-teaching. Several common themes emerge that are critical to this model to be successfully implemented, which of course are the main focus of having this co-teaching or cooperative teaching. Okay, so co-teaching as in two educational professionals working together to service a group of heterogeneous learners. What are the common team up of educators to engage in co-teaching relationships? Of course, we have special and general educators, or they could be paraprofessional and a special or general educator. Another, these are two general education teachers. Next, we have also speech or language pathologist and a special educator or a general educator. They could also be a social worker and a special educator or general educator combination. Another is that it can be also other support personnel or volunteers and special educator, of course, or a general educator again. And lastly, we can have elective teachers, okay? They could be PE, music, art, computers, foreign languages, and others, and a special educator or a general educator. So this team comes together for a common purpose, mainly to meet a wide range of learners more effectively. Likewise, this setup have a long-term agenda for working together. So this could be one school year, one term, or one grading period, depending on the needs of the community or the school they are working with. So otherwise, co-teaching relationships that exist, examples focuses on collaboration between general and special education teachers. So the general education classroom, or as may be decided, who will be paired depending on the goal. Okay, so co-teaching across the grade level. So with a teacher to meet holistically the demands or needs of students, the disadvantage of co-teaching at the elementary level is that most students with disabilities have problems with reading. This is very critical, of course, but then again, the area wherein this is critical is a big problem if the reading class is scheduled on or early in the morning or on a specific time, because you need to pop up with the specific needs of every individual, especially with those disabilities. So if there is only one or two special educators that are employed at the school, then co-teaching in the area or reading can be a very challenging task, especially in scheduling. So teachers should keep in mind that collaboration with the teacher may not need to be at the same time every day or 5 days a week or more permanently. So as an example, a teacher at this level have found greater success in trying to work 2 days a week in one classroom and another 3 days in another, and the next is switching. So another strategy is to consider at this level is to have a floating planning period. So if the special educator has a different planning period each day of the week, this structure allows them to work 4 days a week with the general educators, but also provide for planning periods across the learning levels. So in the middle school, okay, so if you're teaching in the middle school, then you must listen carefully. So if your school follows more of a junior high school model, then the ideas suggested in the high school section are better to consider. At this level, several issues come into play related to co-teaching that are primarily centered on student and teacher issues. The primary issue for teachers is make sure that true collaboration is happening between a content area teacher and a special educator. In other middle schools, the special educators are grouped as a team. So they goes together. So if you are English teachers, you are grouped as a team. If you are Filipino teachers, the same way. Or if you're a math teacher or Filipino, TLE, and whatever subject you're handling. So in a strong or co-taught middle school setting, special educators are assigned typically by grade level. So in a manner or so that a member of the interdisciplinary team will be able to at least have the various teams related to the specific needs of its clientele or the learners. So as it is true at all levels, students with disabilities who are included in a co-taught setting must feel positive about themselves. So there should be belongingness and acceptance. So some of the suggested ideas to address this might be to have a resource period once a day in which learners are given a 5-minute overview of the content they will be learning the next day. So it's just giving them advance notice of what they're going to do the next day. So that will be helpful enough so that they can still have time to mingle or to at least interact with their other members of the class. While in the classroom setup or in the high school setup, the structure at this level can be the most accommodating for co-teaching, but the most challenging to schedule, of course, because they are specific teachers for a specific discipline. Your school is using a block schedule, this structure can be a great help and benefit with a more hands-on learning environment for students with disabilities. However, for special educators, this may mean that they are limited in the number of classes that can be covered in this type of structure. So what might be needed to occur is splitting time between two blocks or attending one class 3 days in a week and another 2 days a week. So the other barrier occurs at high school level is the lack of interdisciplinary planning. So in many high schools, often the structures focus on planning within content teams, which makes learning at this time disjointed or disorganized and causes the special educator to need to work across numerous content teams. So the disorganized may limit the planning time so the special educator can find with general educator and can be a huge barrier. Of course, the special educator has limited content knowledge. So one idea to consider at this level is to start assigning special educators by content areas instead of by disability, which requires them to teach across content areas. Going on, okay. So okay, for every success, of course, there are keys or there are rules to follow. So skill of the teacher is as important or as high as his technique. But in co-teaching, there are three critical issues that we need to consider to address, of course, and before we start the process. So if you are presently co-teaching, you may want to listen on these issues to adjust or improve what you are already doing. Okay, so the first one, of course, is planning. So planning, so this seems obvious, but co-teaching teams need to have time to plan and to be committed to the planning processes. If one teacher shows up on time and the other always arrives late, then this can hinder the learning process or the teaching and the teaming process. Today's teams need 10 minutes per lesson. That is based on the research of Zicker in 2001 to plan for their specific topics. This figure was taken from teams not on their first year of teaming, but of in their soon following years or many years in the teaming process. So in the first year, additional time for planning may be needed. So it can be more than 10. But as you go on, as you practice to become a habit, so you don't need to commit more time in planning process. Next is disposition. So the philosophy and motives of the two teachers working together are considered very important. So what are their main goal, their objective, their aim in having the planning or the lesson for the day? So if one teacher believes all students should be included and appropriate accommodations are essential, while the other believes that having high standards means treating all the students the same, these differences can greatly affect the teaching process. So if the teacher is after the performance or the actual performance, while the other teacher is after the written exam, so they must agree upon which is better or what should be taken into consideration before continuing. So before starting the co-teaching process, discussing your perspective on issues such as fairness, grading, behavioral management, and philosophy of teaching are important in order to become an effective and, of course, efficient team. And then the last key to successful co-teaching is, of course, evaluation. So this aspect is one that is lacking in many individual classrooms and in many schools. They teach and teach, give grades, give examinations, but are these examinations enough to measure the learnings of our students? Okay, so then a systematic method should be used to evaluate both teacher satisfaction and student learning with this school model. So if teachers are working in a team setting, then at least every 4 weeks, they should be or they should set aside a few minutes or have time to discuss two critical questions. And what are these two critical questions? The first one is, are we meeting the needs of both teachers? Do I meet your need? Do I, or do you, do we meet what do we need to give to our students? Okay, so an example of this, the special educator meeting individual students' needs, and is the content teacher meeting the local and the state standards or the national standards. And most importantly is what we are doing good for all students. So meaning we are doing this for the betterment or for the improvement of all the students, not only for a specific student or for a number. Again, they are your students, so therefore they are all very important to you. So the co-teaching process is only beneficial for a student with a disability to gain social skills, yet everyone else cannot learn because of disruptions or because the curriculum is being modified for everyone. Then these teachers must talk about this issue and how to more effectively address this students' needs and still ensure the entire class is learning, not only few of them. So it's such issues arise. It doesn't necessarily mean that co-teaching should not continue, but rather make some modifications and adjustments to be able to at least address all the needs and, of course, have what is expected as part of the teaching process. Okay, so of course, for every success, there are what we call barriers or hindrances. So, of course, this same type of preparation may be needed to assist students with disabilities who will be included in the class who have either the academic or behavioral gaps compared to their peers. So, of course, the first one that we need or barrier in this effectiveness of the co-teaching process is, of course, the time, because you need to give enough time or a specific time within a day to meet all the needs or requirements, especially in planning and conversation and evaluating the results of what you have done within the teaching process together with your co-teacher. And then teacher readiness, or I mean the grading itself. Of course, this is very important because what should be included in the grading. So just as the same and structure must be determined and scheduled prior to the start of a co-teaching relationship, the same should not hold or should not hold true for grading. Of course, in grading process, we have different aspects to determine or to add or include. So it's not only about the physical appearance or the attendance, of course, their performance, their portfolios, their activities, and so on and so forth. Try considering all those sorts of aspects in grading. Then, of course, the next one is student readiness. Are our student ready? Ready in the sense that, of course, we all know that even 10 years ago, many students with disabilities were not included into the general education curriculum. So where we're talking about inclusive education. So they were often pulled out and taught separately because they need specific skills or a specific curriculum. So it is important to remember that simply including students into general education co-taught settings may not ensure their success, but of course, in a way or another, we will be able to at least make them ready for future needs. So one of the struggles that teachers at the upper grade levels must acknowledge is that many students with disabilities have received a disorganized education and may have large gaps in their knowledge base. So next is, of course, the teacher readiness. If student should have or should be prepared, likewise, teachers should be prepared in this type of explanations or this type of setup. So even in the strongest schools, the strongest teachers, resistance to a co-teaching model can occur because teachers often are considered to be autonomous. The best way to address a school-wide co-teaching model is, of course, to let teachers know that they will be teaching next year or they will be co-teaching next year, so they will be prepared so that they have the idea of preparing themselves and allowing teachers collectively or collective autonomy to design models or have a brainstorming or preparation or make a concept on how they will teach as co-teachers. Okay. Then we have the last one, barrier, the high stakes testing. Okay, of course, we all know that part of the grading system is testing, or part of the readiness or the skills achieved and learned by the students is through testing. At the core of for everyone at every grade level in every schools is the issue of how co-teaching may impact testing. So as mentioned, clear evidence does not indicate a conclusive outcome or a specific outcome for co-teaching. Some things are critical to consider in relation to the impact of co-teaching on standardized assessment. Because again, in this type of classroom setup, you have a diverse learners added to the inclusive learning environment. So you need to at least improve the different processes to be able to at least remove these barriers for effectiveness of the co-teaching process. Okay, so let's have common co-teacher models and some strategies for distance remote learning. Okay, what is the first one? So parallel teaching. What is parallel teaching? Or this occurs when a class is divided into two groups and each teacher delivers the same information to students at the same time. So when this is applied to distance learning, this can occur in a Zoom meeting or a Zoom platform or any platform that can be used by using the breakout rooms feature to place students into two groups. So each group would receive the same instruction, not different instruction. So at the same time from a certified teacher. So there are two teachers but teaching the same structure or same lesson. The only difference is that the whole class is divided into some smaller group so that the needs will be really be given opportunity to at least improve or be imparted to the learners. The next one is teaching and observing. This type of co-teaching occurs when one teacher delivers instruction while the other teacher observes students as they are learning and working. So at least the other one can be able to at least see how other students perform without asking them how to perform the specific task. So this can be done again in a Zoom session as well. So in this situation, one teacher would lead the Zoom lesson while the other teacher observes and take notes. And after the lesson is complete, the teachers can collaborate by reflecting, of course, on notes taken by and using this qualitative data to plan for further instruction or for adjustment of the processes. Okay. Another is teaching and assisting. So teaching and assisting occurs when one teacher delivers instruction and the other teacher assists students as needed. So it's a matter of facilitating the whole learning processes with one teacher in leading the lesson itself. So teaching and assisting could also be done virtually. So as one teacher instructs students, the other may offer a breakup room for one or more students to assist with individual learning needs as they arise. Okay, moving on. So we still have alternative teaching. So what is alternative teaching? So alternative teaching happens when one teacher delivers content to a large group of students and another teacher instructs a small group of students based on student need. Again, I'm emphasizing about inclusive education because of the special needs and disabilities of different students within the class, especially that now we are in the pandemic, so there's no way of excluding those which have disabilities. So alternative teaching is similar to teaching and assisting in that it allows a group of students to participate in the regular classroom while receiving accommodations and modifications to help them be successful. So chat features and breakout room features in virtual classrooms can assist special education teachers in modifying lessons as needed for the specific needs of the students. Next is small group teaching or small group stations. This is being done in the normal classroom setup, but then again, this can also be done in the virtual classroom. So this occurs when each teacher teaches a part of the content to a small group. Students rotate through groups to get each part of the content. By using, again, breakout groups in Zoom can be utilized to put students into small groups or virtual stations. So teachers have the option to bring the entire class back together and assign students into new groups as a virtual rotations. So maybe some of our participants or the listeners today or viewers have experienced attending a research conference virtually, so they are being divided into different breakout rooms so that it can be manageable and everyone will be able to at least learn from what is being discussed. And finally, team teaching. So what is team teaching? So team teaching is a type of co-teaching in which both teachers deliver instruction at the same time, taking turns in instructing and observing or assisting. So I'll do it first, then you continue, and then I'll do it again, and then you continue. So taking turns instructing and observing or assisting. This can also be done easily, of course, again, the widely used platform and the online teaching, the Zoom. So Zoom lessons allow teachers to take turns speaking and sharing screens. Additionally, many online tools and platforms such as Google Classroom and other class or online classroom platforms can be used, or different learning management systems can be used in this kind of virtual learning processes. Okay, so this feature allows multiple teachers to manage course content and deliver instruction. Okay, so are you still okay, or are you still involved with our discussion, or are you still engaged with our discussion? So after discussing some points on co-teaching, we could say that co-teaching is complex all the time, meaning it's not easy. Add in a virtual or remote environment, and it exponentially compounds those complexities. The good news is many of the best practices in the brick and mortar classrooms or the traditional classroom setup can easily be transferred online. So don't be afraid of being left behind. So it's just a matter of adjusting and adapting what is within the technology or the advancement nowadays. But of course, there are also adjustments that need to be made in order to maximize our effectiveness as co-teachers during this time. So let us go to the 10 best practices for virtual co-teaching. Okay, so I hope these 10 best practices which I was able to research will help us to be more collaboratively and cooperatively teaching or co-teaching with our partner teacher. Okay, what is the first one? Okay, so treat virtual co-teaching as a new relationship. So eto na magiging bagong boyfriend or girlfriend natin. So whether a new co-teacher or veteran, to set your partnership up for success, consider completing a new co-teaching contract. So you must have an agreement, a specific agreement that you will be partners for the rest of the year or for the rest of the months, so that you'll be able to at least have a compatibility doing all those activities and works for the benefit of your students. So in many ways, virtual co-teaching is a new kind of relationship, and working out the nuts and bolts and having the vital conversation is essential to starting out on the right foot. The next one is co-construct a plan for routine collaboration. Again, this is a team effort, a paired effort, a relationship effort. So again, setting a schedule for consistent collaboration is nothing new. However, we don't want to leave it out because it is so much easier to get overwhelmed and disconnect when we're not face to face. So even not we are not face to face, we can still have time to chat or discuss things, what is going on within our co-teaching process. So you may set a regular day or time to meet and keep it, and then look at your combined responsibilities and make sure your schedule is you have enough time for your schedule for co-planning each time of the week and effectively complete lessons and tasks. In some ways, our schedules are more flexible when working remotely. So you may end up with more time for collaboration and take the advantage of having more time to collaborate and discuss things or the improvement or adjustment of a particular process in your co-teaching. Next is prioritize and expand co-planning for both synchronous and asynchronous learning. We always say there is no co-teaching without co-planning, and that is even more true remotely. So the good news is planning can be done just as effectively remotely. You don't need to meet face to face. You can use different mobile apps or streaming app or meeting app for you to be able to discuss things, okay, in connection with your status or your work. So work with your co-teacher to develop schedules that allow for live co-teaching whenever possible. You can also, when planning asynchronous learning, consider recording the lessons together. If this is not possible for whatever reason, at the very minimum, co-plan every lesson or make sure that you have time for every part of the lesson proper or the planning session that you have really talk about this. And so again, at the very minimum, co-plan every lesson together to integrate content and language and scaffold learning tasks. Part one is, of course, utilize breakout room or alternative, parallel, and station teaching. So I've already discussed those, but then again, I'm trying to emphasize that breakout rooms are a game changer so that your lesson will not be boring, especially in this pandemic that we are always in front, or those who are teaching virtually spend a lot of time in front of the computer. So again, this is a game changer because teacher or co-teachers employ alternative, parallel, and station teaching virtually. So if you're using Zoom, creating and utilizing breakout rooms is simple. So unfortunately, if you're like the others who are using Google Meet, so I think I don't know yet. I haven't tried using Google Meet for breakout rooms because I'm more familiar in using Zoom. But you can still navigate and try to at least look for other options on how you can be able to at least use the parallel sessions or breakout rooms in your teaching learning process as co-teachers. Continuing, okay, so this is another issue or that we need to improve. Strategically co-plan for student interaction every 3 minutes. So keeping students engaged in the virtual classroom can be challenging. Okay, so students have many distractions. Okay, so especially if they are at home, so that may affect focus. So when planning lessons, use the 3:1 rule. What do I mean by the 3:1 rule? So for every 3 minutes of instruction, at least 1 minute of interaction. So expecting students to talk, type, or tap, or click every 3 minutes will not only keep them engaged, or will not only keep them engaged, but rather make them effective or be present or be proactive. So every 3 minutes will not only keep them engaged, but will also make the content more accessible for our students because we are chunking the material into easily digestible processes. Okay. So next is, of course, we need to closely monitor student participation and provide appropriate and specific feedback. So data on the student participation and engagement is powerful information, especially for remote learning. So since we cannot be with students face to face, co-teachers can use this data to support the students and hopefully prevent the learning lost. So discuss how you will track the participation and respond to all attendance challenges. Additionally, you can set up a feedback-oriented learning system with your co-teacher. So you can decide and when and will it be. So of course, you need to discuss purposely, or there should be a purpose, timely, meaning give the feedback on time. Okay. Then next, be specific on the feedback that you're trying to give to your student and make sure that your feedback is comprehensible or easy to understand. So consider also using student-friendly rubrics or checklists or self-assessments to engage students in self-reflection. So if you are already assigning work for students in Google Classroom, so you can use the comment bank. So this is one of the feature of this Google Classroom, which allows teachers to create a series of comments before reviewing assignments and add those comments to the student work quickly and easy. That's a huge win for meaningful feedback because it means that you can write a thoughtful comment once and add it to the student assignments again and again without having to retype. Okay. Next is offer virtual office hours for students and families. So one of the problem that teachers face today is, of course, the office hours because we are working at home or work from home status. So there's no specific, parents thought that there are no specific time to talk to you and of course have time to discuss. So communication with students and families becomes even more important in the virtual classroom. So opening up your office hours to families allows for them to involve or to be involved in the students' education and helps them when they are teaching at home. So it means you have to set a specific time or give your time to parents or family members for you to be contacted. So whenever they need for the lessons they are teaching. So in the long run, inviting families into the office hours actually save us time and students were producing higher quality work since their parents or guardians understood the objectives and instructions. Plus, it's just another way to strengthen relationship with students, families, and truly partner with them for the student success because this is the nature of our teaching and learning process now in the pandemic. We have the para teachers, so with the help of the members of the families, helping their students or the students in their different activities. Moving on with the last three. So for virtual team teaching, allows students to see both teachers. So as much as possible, open both cameras so that the students will be able to know who are their teachers. So just like in the brick and mortar classroom or traditional classroom, in order to achieve and sustain equality, it is important that students see both teachers on a regular basis. You may consider asking yourselves this question: how are we both truly present in remote instruction, whether in asynchronous or synchronous? For asynchronous video lessons, consider recording with both teachers' videos on. Then you can use Google Meet for live streaming, but you can record asynchronous videos lesson using Zoom because it is it easily allows for this. And of course, you have 40 minutes free recording in Zoom. Okay. So next, identify its others' strengths and designate roles and responsibilities accordingly as co-teachers. So strengths-based collaboration not only values both parties and skills and experience, but it is also more efficient and effective. We can complete jobs and tasks that we are good and in less time and with higher quality. So we are at ease when we do things that we know that we can do it. Or additionally, when we can only collaborate remotely, it's essential that co-teachers are able to rely on each other to accomplish their agreed upon responsibilities. So we are more likely to feel comfortable if we have these conversations and maximize our strengths. So the best way to do it is, of course, try to answer these questions for both the co-teachers. So what are our respective strengths, or what are our strengths? And the next one is, how can we use these strengths to our advantage as we co-plan and co-instruct? And then what roles are a best fit for each of us? I'm not good in discussing, so you can do most of the discussing, but I'm good in disciplining or motivating students. So I'll be doing the motivating part. So you can agree upon which work or which part of the lesson fits each other. Okay, and then lastly, of course, after all these painstaking processes, give yourself and co-teacher grace. Meaning, this is most importantly, you have to breathe, relax, and take a break. Or simply because these are highly stressful, unpredictable, and there are unpredictable times, everyone is doing their best to learn and improve as we go. So empathy, compassion, understanding, and flexibility are crucial in this journey. And the most important one, always remember that well-being comes first, always. Because without us, the co-teaching process will not be possible. Okay? Okay, so again, with collaboration, engagement begins with empowerment, which is very important. So making collaboration work in remote learning. Okay, so we have all been there before when we were students. So we were told to have a group project and immediately begin calculating additional work. And of course, that you would need to do it to keep the group afloat. But you'll be with the drifter or those students who doesn't care, will just roam around, okay? And then just make the whole class noisy. So you have the needy student who wants to ask the teacher a series of questions before making any decisions. And then you have the hasty fighter who picks arguments out of sheer boredom. So at this point, you would realize that you'd be doing 4 times the amount of work you would normally do on a project. Okay? So again, so it's no wonder that so few remote learning classes include collaborative grouping. So after all, the challenges of a person or in-person group seem amplified in virtual spaces. Okay, another is that, of course, we need to uh, ensure individual accountability. So individual accountability is very important. Okay, so again, so many students describe the feelings of loneliness and disconnected. So they shifted into online courses or online activities. So make sure that each individual knows that they are doing this for the betterment or for the improvement of course, their performance. So student ownership begins at the individual level. So even though group members are working together as a whole, each individual member should be contributing. If students are working on a group project, they should move between individual partner and small group tasks. This has the added bonus of allowing introverts additional processing time while also ensuring that each student is of course, accountable for their own work. Next is, of course, we need to empower teams to set norms and expectations. While it is important to have norms for entire class community, it's also important to have students develop a norms as a team. As a teacher, you might suggest a few categories such as respons- being responsibility or being responsible, communication, active participation, conflict resolution, respect, and many other important factors. So it is important that students have developed trust as they give one another feedback. So they will be able to follow what is being expected them to do. Okay. Next is if you empower them, of course, you must also empower teams to own the project management process. So teams often struggle with self-management. They miss deadlines and fail to use their time effectively. This is often amplified in groups where members are good friends. So even when they have independent structures, they have developed group norms. The entire small group can become unproductive throughout a collaborative project. But this is especially true in virtual environments where the instructor isn't constantly present to get students on task. So the counter-intuitive solution is for students to own the project management process. Let them do what they have to do, or let them plan for whatever things they have to do for the completion of their project. Next. So if they own the project management process, they must also be empowered to own the communication process. They should not be always asking the teacher when they will be together or when they will talk about or when will they discuss about the project. Sometimes students struggle with collaboration in remote learning because the challenges in virtual communication. For this reason, it helps to teach students when to use both synchronous and asynchronous communication tools. In other words, you can empower groups to set up the type of communication along with their setting their schedules. Okay, so we are now living in an era of constant digital communication. We can share insights and collaborate with people all over or all around the world. But there's a cost, of course. So this is why it helps to think about the distinction between synchronous and asynchronous communication tools. So, okay. Next is, of course, empowered team still need check-ins, meaning you need to check or you need to follow up also what is the progress of their project. How is this done? You can have a video announcement, small group check-ins or follow-up. You may have email check-ups or short text check-ins or survey. So it's not always easy to make collaboration work in remote learning. In fact, it is rarely easy. That's part of why so few instructors design the system to make this happen. So even when you design the system well, there will always be challenges and conflicts. So we are only humans and inherently messy, and students are deeply human. So we need to consider that we are all humans. But then again, we need to provide them with ample examples and feedback so that they will be able to at least have a positive attitude on how they will be able to attain or progress in the collaboration of their output or work. Okay, so for teachers, social distance has not meant relational distance. They are proving that's over and over again just how much they care. So it doesn't mean that we are teaching virtually, we don't care anymore for our students. Okay, but it's important that we show our care, empathy, and sympathy to them. Lastly, last of my topic, tips for partnering virtually in co-teaching during distance learning. You must, of course, the first one is meet weekly as much as possible, or if not weekly, meet more. So virtual meetings using tools such as Zoom, Google Meet, or FaceTime are important for staying connected. So while emails and texts can be easier to use, they can also be easier to misinterpret. Because sometimes students understand text differently from one another. So Try to limit the use of emails and texts to quick check-ins or to share resources. You can have, or you can set a singular time to meet each week. So you might find that you need to meet more often online than you ever did in person. So being positive and productive. Next is make sure that both teachers can access all online platforms and resources being used. Both of you should have access and editing rights to all platforms you're using. This ensures, of course, that you both can share responsibilities and support all learners. So when searching for online platforms that have shared administrator or educator access, check out the class settings under the teacher account or look for collaboration options under account setting. Okay. Uh, the third one, of course, which is also very important, is use we in your language. So divide and conquer is the best strategy for virtual co-teaching. But of course, be sure that students know you're both present and available for support. With the distance learning, it can be harder for students to see collaboration in action. Go out of your way and point it out or direct it to your students. So sending emails to the students and families, continue to use we. So the we statements and sign both names when appropriate. So it's very important to know that both of you are participating in the process of this, co-teaching. And then establish a routine, okay, for getting work done. So for co-teachers, a routine helps ensure that both teachers now know and can plan for their responsibilities. It respects that both teachers have obligations outside and the co-teaching partnership. So establish who will post the daily to do this for the students using the same platform or format. Okay, moving on. So decide how you'll assess student growth. So assessment again is very important. This will help ensure that students get similar feedback no matter who's assessing their work. Also, remember to check for district or different memoranda regarding grading policies during this time or whatever grading policies your schools are using. So be clear about expectations and grading criteria in your directions to the students and families. You can use rubrics that both teachers develop and review. And then of course, the last one, okay? So share successes. When a student succeeds, celebrate it together. There are the moments we're missing in school. Sharing them will help us get through this time of transition in education. If we have a breakthrough in a video conference with a student, let the other teacher know. So everything that is going on should be learned or known by the teacher so that everything will be fine. Okay. Again, this is the end of my presentation or discussion on co-teaching and collaborative responsibility and, of course, virtual learning.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we will proceed to the question and answer part. Our first question is from Leia Rodriguez. What can you suggest po for teachers that are not fully accepting the current learning modality that we have?
Uh, maybe actually many teachers are not into adopting or accepting the new norms and the learning modalities now. But then again, as the saying goes, only those who are adopting or into accepting the new normal or the new processes can last in this teaching profession or can stay in this teaching profession because you will be left behind. So I think it's just a matter of explaining and helping them to get into these learning processes. Maybe those teachers of yours who are not in accepting this kind of new normal in this pandemic era, try to assist them or co-teach with them so that they will be able to at least have a first-hand experience that it's also fun using the new normal, especially the new modalities that we have, the virtual learning, okay, or the online learning platforms that we are using. So it's just a matter of introducing these learning platforms to them because they are afraid of committing mistakes on how they use these meeting platforms or these teaching platforms. So again, as teachers, we all know that we were able to be in this status, passing different examinations and different levels of practice. But then again, we are afraid to commit mistake and uh, be part of the conversation of others that we had committed mistakes. But then again, as I've said, experience is the best teacher. So that in the next process, you'll get to know what to do and be able to know how to proceed and to be able to make yourself effective enough in using the technologies nowadays. Try to
Thank,
co-teach with them.
thank you very much, sir. Our next question is from Jules Navarro. What can you recommend po for our students who are having a hard time in the distance learning for us to be able to collaborate with them?
Okay, so the practically speaking, distance learning considers or we can still have two kinds of distance learning. One is printed distance learning, one is online distance learning. So for those students who have the ability to at least have the online platform, give them activities that will engage them to be active enough, while those students who don't have the ability to be online, give them the modules or print out materials. But again, you need to have just one of the discussion, have an office hour or have time or a specific time of the day wherein students can be able to at least ask questions and or ask for assistance regarding the topic that you have for them to answer to complete. So it's just giving them that, hey, I have time here for you. I just need you to call me or text me, message me, or inform me that you need my help so that I can assist you. So letting them know that you are free to assist them is making them feel that they are worth enough of your time. At the same time, they can say that our teacher is very concerned for us because he gives his time in assisting us, even though we are grown-ups or we have the materials. So give them the time that they need. And of course, varied or different modalities needs different uh, learning materials for them to be able to engage them, especially for those who could not really cope up. Especially colleagues also experience this kind of situation. In my situation, instead of answering this page, the other students answer a different page. So it's just a matter of explaining and informing them that they can still ask and don't be afraid to ask questions so that they can be assisted, and at the same time, both of you will not have hard time in the teaching process.
Thank you very much, sir. That's all the questions we have for now. Any last reminders to our viewers for today po?
Okay, so actually, it's not just a reminder. What is going on with our society, or especially with the education sector in this pandemic? It's not literally new. The United Nations had already declared that at all cost, there are catastrophes, wars, peace and order situations, or especially health issues that comes around, schools must not be freezed or must not close. It's just a matter of literally closing the doors, but then again, education shall continue. Again, we have different modalities or different online platforms that we can use. For public school system, we have different modalities also depending on the survey result. And of course, we need to modify things as they are. And one of my explanation or part of the discussion that I have given is that part of the brick and mortar situation or setup, the traditional classroom setup, can be transferred to the virtual learning classroom. Only that you need to make some adjustment to be able to at least adopt this traditional classroom setup to the new normal classroom setup through virtual learning. So again, to everyone, happy teaching. I know this profession is indeed a noble profession, but then again, we are building a nation of good citizens and, of course, efficient citizens of ours. Thank you.
There we have it. In behalf of Vibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this very eye-opening and insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us today, sir. And to all our Kavibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Don't forget to register to get your e-certificate of participation. We also encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Vival Facebook and YouTube channel. Muli, maraming salamat